Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. In John chapter 8, in verse 31, Jesus is addressing some disciples of his who had, in a sense, accepted and believed in what Jesus was teaching, but had reservations. And the Lord recognizes that they did have these reservations. And he says in verse 31, it says, "So Jesus was saying to those Jews who had believed in him, 'If you continue in my word, then you are truly disciples of mine.'" Continue to believe the things that you've come to believe. We'll find that as we read in the conversation that they end up not believing. As a matter of fact, by the time Jesus is done having this conversation, they're going to say that Jesus has a devil. So Jesus knows that they're kind of riding the fence, that they may have somewhat grasped the truth that Jesus was teaching, but not wholeheartedly. And that's why he makes this statement. But it's this next verse that we want to focus on. In verse 32, it says, "And you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free." And in this particular context, it probably has to do with the truth in connection to Jesus's person and his work. The truth about himself and what he was there to accomplish. And if they would come to accept that truth, then it would set them free from sin. And that sparks a whole conversation with them about being in bondage to sin and needing freedom from sin, and so on and so forth. But the general truth applies as well. Specifically, it's talking about the person and work of Christ, most likely. But it's a general truth as well that we can take to heart. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Oftentimes, we live this life in bondage to sin, to the world, to Satan, to the flesh, simply because we don't allow the truth to have its full effect in our lives. If we would but accept the truth about Jesus, about God, about ourselves, about the world, about life, we would find ourselves having increasing victory over sin, especially things in connection to what God has said about ourselves. In the New Testament, there are a lot of statements that are made, truths that are given about us, that oftentimes we either don't wholeheartedly believe or we just ignore, and so they don't have as big of an effect in our lives. In Romans chapter 6, we're told that our old self was crucified with Christ. We're also told there that we've been buried with Christ in baptism and raised to walk in newness of life. These are truths that are set out in scriptures about us. And so Paul goes on to say, then consider yourselves as dead to sin and alive to God. In other words, take that truth to heart. Take it full heart, with your full heart and in full faith that you have been crucified with Christ. In Galatians, we could go and talk about Galatians chapter 5, where it says those who walk in the Spirit have crucified themselves to the flesh and to the desires of the flesh. In chapter 6, he says that we've been crucified to the world and the world to him. In the second chapter of Galatians, he says that I've been crucified with Christ. It's no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. Paul had these truth claims that he held on to, and it allowed him to have victory over sin and over false ideas that would creep in and cause him to get off track. And he used those truths also to encourage the church to hold fast to these things and find freedom in the truth about themselves. In Ephesians, the first 3 chapters are dedicated to letting them know the truths about themselves, how blessed they are in Christ, how they were dead in their trespasses and sins, but have been made alive to God through Christ, and how they have been far off, but have been brought near through the blood of Christ, and how they have now become a part of the household of God. Many, many truths about them in Ephesians chapter 1 through 3, and then he gets into the practical in chapters 4 through 6. Recognizing the fact that it's not until they recognize who they were that they could go out and live that out in their lives. And the same thing is true with us. Grasping the truth about ourselves, the truth about God, about Jesus, and what he's accomplished for us will set us free and help us to live a life of liberty from sin so that we will no longer be slaves of sin. Now, does that mean that we'll live a life of perfection and never sin again? No, but it just means that we have now these truths to hold on to that can give us victory over sin, and to where it is now possible to not sin. It's possible to live a life not controlled by sin and under the mastery of sin. So as we do our reading today and we get into John chapter 8, let's be thinking about some truths that we can hold on to that can cause us to be free from the bondage of sin and allow us to walk in holy freedom before God through Jesus Christ by the Spirit, and begin to live that life and hold on to these truths about ourselves. We are children of God. We are priests of God. We are a chosen generation, special people for God. We have been crucified with Christ. All these different things that the scriptures tells us about ourselves, we should take as the truth and believe them and let that truth have its full effect in our lives. So let's do that today. With that, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.